Hello and welcome to the webinar Agile Approach: How to Make Testing Process Smooth, hosted by QATestLab. Thanks for joining us today. Today is our fifth webinar, and you and I will spend the next 20-30 minutes together. My name is Ivanna Kyryk, and I am a program manager in QATestLab. What's about me? I have a team of 20 QA experts, and we have over 15 active projects running. My core competence is management of web and digital projects. So let's start. In terms of fast-growing making competitions, companies follow the Agile approach to ensure a quick product release without losing its quality, providing a rarely feature after every sprint. Agile methodology ensures an unremitting process of software development. Agile approach requires following particular principles during development process. How to test project with Agile approach? Based on the opinion that independent QA provides cannot adjust the activities to Agile workflow and require more time to become aware of project specifics and join the produce software developers keep on testing in-house. Independent testing in Agile workflow is possible, and we will talk about this with you today. In Agile approach, developers and testers are seen as two sides of the same production coin, two parallel lines that should always meet and compare notes daily. From an Agile perspective, efficient production of severely hampered if your developers are staying or to refine their code to state of perfection before passing it on separate testing team, who then strive to break it in as many ways as they can before sending their damage report back to the dev team. This two-step process requires time, money, and frequently leads to internal division between a given company's developers and testers. Instead, Agile suggests that these two essential functional by merchant, not necessarily in terms of people, but in terms of time and process. Thus, bridging the illustrative divide between code creators and code breakers, and even reducing the need for robust testing teams, while still respecting the necessary of both roles. One could even say that in Agile, developers are encouraged to think more like testers, continually checking their own code for potential errors. And testers are encouraged to think more like developers, tempering their natural destructive tendencies to engage more fully in the creative process itself. In short, Agile requires the depth of continuous collaboration between stakeholders, including management, developers, testers, and customers, through the production process that isn't found of traditional waterfall workflow. Testing becomes an essential component of each and every phase of the development process, with quality being baked in. to a product, and every stage of its development shows constant feedback from every holding a vision on the final product. Apart from standardized methodologies and traditional approaches, the procedure of quality assessment is the agile workflow has particular structure of the design to reach certain goals. Objective of agile approach. QA is not the gatekeeper of the quality of the product. This is a team responsibility. However, we as the QAs testers have an additional responsibility, that of being watchful and proactive to ensure the quality of the product remains a team responsibility. To make this effective, more so in a distributed development and QA team working on agile software project. The QA team should adhere to the guidelines and protocols recommended in this document help achieve the following. First of all, it's enable the QA team better test the product. Next step is provide correct set of visibility in terms of the quality of the product. Next, it will be simple, intuitive, and easy to follow and achieve. Test early and provide quickly feedback on the quality of the product. Next step is process. In order to fulfill the objective, the QA process for the team fits into three broad categories. First, it's agile testing from iteration 0 to release. Second, testing within each iteration. Third, it's pre-production or release testing. Let's start from agile testing lifecycle. Agile testing life cycle from iteration 0 to release. To be effective in a testing on an agile project, the QA needs to keep track on the past, the present, and the future. Also, the role of QA is very dynamic of the project moves from iteration 0 to the release date. The pictorial representation shown below depicts the typical activities the QA is involved in the life cycle of the project. A QA does three types of activities in each iteration. First, ideally, all testing would be completed in the same iteration. However, in quite a few cases, I have seen that testing lags behind by some duration. Hence, in each iteration, this may be some amount of work to be completed from the early iteration work. Second activities, it's story testing for the current iteration includes manual and automation work. And third, it's work with the business analytics to get visibility into the next iteration stories, and also help iron out those stories. First activities, ideally, you can see the boxes with the green text in the picture. Second activity, story testing. You can see the boxes with the black text in the picture. And third activities was work with the business analyst. You can see with the orange text in the picture. Now let's proceed to testing within each iteration. Testing within each iteration. The QA has various responsibilities in the iteration as depicted in the picture below. So this activity typical occur in the sequire show in the image. Many times based on the context, sequence may be different and also some of the activities may happen in parallel. Let us try to understand the same semantics of the task, of this task. First of all, it's story planning session. Write or refine acceptance criteria. The planning for the iteration starts at least an iteration before the current one. Example, if you are current in iteration 2, the planning for this iteration has happened in the latest in iteration 1. In this step, the QA or QA team should work with the business analyst to understand the story and help write the acceptance criteria. This helps with various ways. There is better visibility of the business requirements. A better and more complete acceptance criteria can be written in the story as early as possible within will then fill into the development team. Since the QA team now know what stories are coming up, they can plan their testing strategy more appropriately. Then comes iteration planning meeting, IPM, iteration planning meeting. The IPM is a forum for the QAs to understand the business priorities and which stories are going to be played in the iteration from the business stakeholders. The QA team should make full use of this opportunity and ensure the following. First of all, it's make it effective for on-site and offshore QA team. Second, it's raise risks or issues as soon as possible. And ensure QA capacity or estimates are accounted for. And identify dependencies. Next step is QA kickoff of the iteration. After the IPM iteration planning meeting, the QA team should have a QA kickoff for the iteration. In most cases, the business analysts should be invited to ensure correct understanding by the team. Items to cover in this step include the following. First of all, it's overall understanding of the stories. Next step is any potential issues to watch out for. Identifying and setting up testing data for all stories coming up. Identifying automation maintenance tests based on oncoming stories. Creating a status matrix to identify priorities. And next step, each QA will then sign up for testing specific stories. In case of distributed team, a good guideline to follow is that the QA team should sign up for stories that the development is the same location. This will ensure a quick around time for testing each story. In many cases, the points to be included in the QA kickoff would actually be covered in the IPM itself, hence making this step redundant. Being a separate testing step within the iteration, individual story testing also includes several components. Individual story testing consists of its story kickoff. Once of the story sign-up is done, there is a story kickoff with the business analyst, the developers, and the QA person. This is a very important discussion that gets all involved parties of the same page in understanding the requirements and the deliverables of the story. The discussion should be as dedicated as possible, with the QAs trying to identify and share the test scenarios with the business analysts and the developers. Also, input from the business analyst and the developer should be taken on any scenarios that may have been missed, or based on the understanding of the code change involved. If any other scenarios need to be included when testing the story. Next step is test data preparation. Following the story kickoff, the QA should start preparation or identifying the test data that would be needed to effectively test the story, manually and via automated. A different set of data should be used of manual, automated, and developer testing to prevent data confirm related test failures. This activity should be done keeping the audit QA team members and development teams members in the loop to ensure to overlap in the test data. Also, if any scripts or setup can be shared, that would help save time and effort, and also duplicate can be avoided. Next step is testing scenario writing. The test data preparation and test scenario writing activities go hand in hand and not necessarily sequentially. The scenarios to be tested for the story should be identified and updated in the test case management tools being used. One of the test scenarios are written. This should be shared or reviewed with the business analysts and the developers developing the story to ensure the scenarios are complete, and also developers can probably identify missing pieces in the code at a much early stage. Automate test scenarios. The QA team needs to identify test scenarios that makes sense to be automated and which can be automated. Then the script automated should be started. Since the story is still not completed, there probably will be limit, mm, limitization how much can be done at this stage. However, in most cases, a lot of groundwork and framework layers can be created without needing the completed story. After the business analytic or QA, the missing pieces in the automated script can be completed by pointing the test to a goal or development environment. QAs should be mindful that the test automated code should be a production quality. They should use proper OOP concepts while implemented the automated tests, the insurance, and any new code that is written is not duplicated and structured properly. Next part is business analyst. Once of the developers complete the story development work, there should be a business analyst or QA. What this means is that business analysts and QA will test story acceptance criteria on the developer's local environment. And all the acceptance criteria failures should be fixed by the developer before the story can be said the development complete. Next step and last step, and this is test the story. After the business analyst is completed, a new build should be made available to the QA team to the test story based on scripts identified and documented. The QA team should never be working against testing the developer code. Instead, they should always insist on testing the compiled and deployed binaries in the proper last environment to simulate the end user scenarios. Once a build is available to appropriate environments, the QA should execute the manual test scripts. There should be at least one round of exploratory testing for the story and the features or functionalities around the changes that have been developed as part of the story to ensure there are no regression or other issues in the product. Based on the time available in the iteration, this can happen early on a developer's sandbox or deployed builds. Exploratory testing is very important, and typically a lot of issues are found from this type of testing. Next, important information about automation. All the automated tests should be run at least a couple of times per iteration, preferably via some continuous integration mechanism, else the automation is not of much value. The frequency of these test runs should be fine-tuned, keeping in consideration the local on the system availability of key resources needed by the system. The test run report should then be shared with the team. Also, the automated test should be graphics locally to facilitate running select and test easily. The list of groups would probably be an involving list. Talk about showcase. The functionality developed in the iteration is presented to the business stakeholders at the end of the iteration. It's important for a representative from the QA team to be part of this event in order to understand how the functionality was received by various attendees. And also, if any other new information comes up in the session. And last but not least, testing step within Agile development is pre-production or release testing. This testing will be done using the guidelines published by the client organization. In order to ensure an effective verification of product release version, several practices are used. Defects reporting and verification. Along with the standard or regular defect reporting and verification process, a few additional activities help a lot of reducing the turnaround for defects. When reproducing the defects, attach screenshots or video to help the developers. This has helped the developers to reproduce the problem easily. This will be ensure quickly turnaround on the defect. Example, the tool Snagit or Jink has free tool version that can be used to take screenshots and video snaps from your computer. Other important things. Code freeze for the iteration. This will give the QA team a chance to do a quick pass of manual plus exploratory testing of the stories in the same iteration. Without this, there is always going to be a spillover of stories in the next iteration. Next important thing is QA estimates. A story estimate really means the total time it takes to develop and test the story. If this estimate change to be a development estimate, and then we need another approach. Each story should have QA estimate, which would allow better capacity and scope planning for the iteration and release. This also facilitates data collection over a period of time, the actual time needed to the QA team to do effective testing versus the currently allocated QA capacity. So that the management team can then take proper action to meeting the issues. Next thing is visibility. And appropriate dashboard should be created that provides all relevant details about the quality of the product under test. Example list of items to include the dashboard. First of all, it's number of stores in the iteration in ready for QA state. Next, number of stores in the iteration in QA state. Number of stores in the iteration which are not yet in ready for QA state. Number of defects open with current assigns priority and other. Next step, number of defects pending verification. And last step, it's automation block. Next important things, it's communication. Effective communication and collaboration within all the team members is critical as to success for Agile software project. A few tips mentioned below can help in this regard. First, it's daily catch-up calls or emails. Second, it's sharing knowledge of story across QA team. Next, it's keeping the QA in the story update. Next, it's in case of distributed teams, if a story changes location for any reason, the QA team needs to be made aware of the change, and they need to ensure testing is not going to be affected for it. Next regard, it's any change in story. Any change in story should be communicated to at least one QA team member by the PM, business analyst, and developer. This QA team member will then coordinate with the QA working on the story and ensure all testing related to the story and adjusted appropriately. Next important things, it's a task list. There should be a common page or task list that the QA team across location keep adding or adding tasks they encounter along the way in the iterations. Any QA team member having bandwidth then sign up for the along the way and complete it. Next important thing is QA section in each story. Each story should have a QA specific section to help track the testing status on each story. QA status. Each status should be separately tracked. Either as a checkbox or radio button or as a drop-down list. In order to ensure an objective and precise quality assessment, customers use the services of independent testing. Due to flexibility, the independent QA provides are able to adjust their activities to the needs of Agile workflow without losing the quality of provided services. The majority of people are sure that it's more effective to have in-house QA team. because of available face-on-face communication, presence and meetings, and avoiding any maybe mass distraction, misunderstanding, miscommunications. But the barriers to stable communication within the project team can be easily avoided by a number of available communication channels. Proper functionality implementation and objective quality evaluation are the main objectives of Agile software development. And independent testing is suitable for Agile workflow. So that's all, and thank you for staying with us today. For now, we will have Q&A session. So if you have any questions, please type them into the text form and I will try to help you. 1 minute, I see. Okay, and first question about Agile, and question, I keep on Agile? Yes, I like Agile methodology. This methodology is applicable to most projects. It's very convenient to work iteratively. We can change, we can do some change when required by the project. And we have one more question. Oh, it's about Agile too. How Agile can save from a bad code? When we use an Agile, you can see bad code early and take some action. Maybe this way for you. Okay. Okay, if you have any question left, please contact us using the contact details on the slide, and we will answer them soon. So, thank you again for your attention and have a great day or evening. Take care.